Check. Yeah. Are you? Okay.
Can I start? Hello and good evening, everyone. This is Swati here. Today, we are all here for a very important event. We have a young, talented, and brilliant guest here with us for the occasion, Kaamya Karthikeyan. 13 and hails from our very own Madras. Kaamya is a class 8 student of Navy Children's School, Mumbai. She has made the whole of India proud by becoming the youngest girl Aconcagua, a colossal peak in Argentina and the highest peak outside Asia. She set out to scale the highest peaks in all the continents and ski the North and South Poles. She was commended by our Prime Minister and got a prominent mention in one of his Man Ki Baat. Kamya's father, Commander S. Karthikeyan, is a proud naval officer and an accomplished mountaineer, skydiver, cyclist, runner, and scuba diver. Okay. He has been our greatest inspiration. Her biggest support system, her mother, Mrs. Lavanya, is an early school educator and is an eternal optimist. Even though Kamya seems to be born ready for adventure, her achievements were never easy. She's here to share her experiences, goals, and thoughts with all of us here today and motivate us. We are very eager to hear your journey, Kamya. Over to you.
A very good evening to all. At the outset, I would like to thank the Sports Organizing Committee at IIT Madras for giving me this wonderful opportunity to speak on Sahas, my journey through the mountains, which is going to literally take me to the extremities of the world. Certainly not easy, but a fabulous experience. I say that the journey has been long as my trials with nature began on a baby sling when my parents carried me along on their outings. Even before I turned 3, I started treading baby steps in the wilderness of the Sahyadris. The Western Ghats, a treasure trove of biodiversity, was my first playground. The beauty of the Sahyadris instilled a love for nature so deep in me that I began treasuring the patterns of butterflies and leaves more than expensive toys and clothes. I was hooked forever to Mother Nature. And I'm very sure if you will trek in the Sahyadris during the monsoons, you will fall in love with her beauty as well. Partner. Since then, she has boldly led me on most of my escapades. We went on to climb the 12,000 feet high Chandrashila peak. The beauty of the Himalayas amazed me so much that I was forever hooked to climbing. Thereon, I started to challenge myself by pushing my limits in each of the subsequent adventures. The impact was such that I wanted my friends and relatives also to experience this joy of being in the wilderness and requested my parents to organize a trek for my birthday. This turned out to be such a hit that it has remained a tradition ever since. In 2016, we traveled to Dehradun to trek up the beautiful valley of Harkidun at 13,500 feet. It felt really great that I could motivate some of my relatives, friends, and their parents to join us. We were 11 kids, and what fun we had despite being completely disconnected from the comforts of home and technology. On descending from Harkidun, me and my mom bid farewell to the others and joined another group of trekkers the very next day to climb the steeper slopes of Kedarkanta Peak. If not for my mother, who has been my mentor as well as mate on all these treks, my Himalayan odyssey might have never bloomed. The Dashera holidays of 2016 were again spent in the mountains. This time, it was the famous and treacherous trek to Rupkund, a lake seated at 16,400 feet amidst pristine meadows and dense forests. But what Rupkund is actually famous for is the large collection of human bones scattered all over the lake and a lot of interesting mythical stories that go with it. This was the first time I trekked in the Himalayas with my hero, my dad. He was actually testing my abilities in the mountains as I wanted to trek to the Everest base camp next. Rupkund instilled the much required self confidence in me to accomplish higher and more challenging treks. It also earned me the confidence of my parents. Our love for the lower Himalayas has grown so much that they draw us repeatedly. We have ventured on many beautiful treks like the Brighu Lake trek and the Sarpas trek. The will to trek in the Himalayas doesn't come easy. I had to train hard. I would go on long runs or cycle uphill at least 4 days a week. In the beginning of 2017, with eyes set at the Everest base camp, the training got more intense. I had to train my climbing muscles by walking up steep and long hill slopes near my house. Many a times, seeing a little girl and her mother walk uphill with heavy backpacks, passers-by would stop to offer a lift. I also took climbing lessons from my father. Doing those rope tricks was as entertaining as watching any superhero movie. Sundays saw the entire family trek up the nearby Simachalam hill in Vizag so that we remained in touch with stepping through gravel and snow on uneven terrain. Apart from physical preparation, I also had to get used to extreme cold climates at such high altitudes. I was lucky to be exposed to snowscapes right from the age of 3 when I traveled to the Nathula Pass on the Indo-China border. Since then, I have regularly visited various hill stations of the country like Leh, Manali, Shimla, Darjeeling, Gangtok, and Gulmarg. Gulmarg in Jammu and Kashmir is nothing short of paradise, with great conditions for skiing. I have been there 4 times to learn skiing and even traveled there alone with my mother in 2016 and 2017. I completed my advanced skiing course in 2018 with distinction. I hope to see some friendly faces from here in Gulmarg next season. You will have to see it to believe it. In early May 2017, we finally traveled to Kathmandu to undertake the Everest Base Camp trek. From there, a small aircraft lugged us to Lukla, a dangerously located airfield. Lukla, in the remote Solukhumbu region of Nepal, is from where the trek started. The amazing views and backdrops that I witnessed compensated more than enough for the efforts put in during the training. In the next few slides, I have tried to reproduce a few glimpses of the magical landscape that we traversed en route to the EBC. Most of the trail went along the Dudh Koshi River, with hanging bridges making us crisscross the river innumerous times. All along the trek, we passed devout Buddhist monasteries, a testimony to the rich but humble culture of Nepal. We also made new friends for life. While it was just a one-time affair for me to reach the Everest base camp in this harsh terrain, I noticed that this path was a daily route for many, including children carrying school bags and walking this very route to school every day. It made me realize how lucky I was. The trek acted as a stage for strong bonding with my mom. This picture depicts a poetic simile with a peak in the background called Ama Dablam, literally meaning mother and daughter in Nepali. After 5 days of intense trek and crossing many Sherpa villages, Mount Everest and Mount Lhotse finally revealed themselves in all glory. Every step higher drained our lungs out of oxygen. This had become evident with the vegetation shrinking and the land turning barren. Above 13,000 feet, the terrain turned completely barren, reminding us of the extremely depleted levels of oxygen. At altitudes higher than 14,000 feet, with oxygen levels as less as 50% of what is available at sea level, every single step had become an endeavor, as the lungs squeezed hard and the heart pumped faster. The breaks had also become more frequent and distances seemed longer. But when you have your eyes set on a destination as big as the Everest, there's nothing stopping you. I continued to progress ahead. Finally, on the seventh day of the tough climb, rows of orange tents at 17,600 feet with an amazing backdrop welcomed us to the Everest base camp. I proudly unfurled the national flag on 16th May 2017 at the Everest base camp. The happiness of standing in the lap of Everest can't be expressed in words easily. I had become the second youngest girl in the whole wide world to have reached the Everest base camp. Records aside, I had climbed for the joy of climbing and would continue to do so. A team from the Indian Navy was also camping at the EBC, preparing to summit Mount Everest in the coming days. I met the climbers, most of whom were my father's prodigies and friends, and wished them good luck. It was a great feeling to learn later that nine of them had reached the summit. After the euphoria subsided, I bid goodbye to Sagar Mata with a heavy heart, only with a promise to return again and to climb all the way up to the summit next time. The entire trek had lasted 14 days through dense forests, grassy plains, rocky terrain, snow and icy glaciers covering 12 to 15 kilometers every day. There is a famous quote: "The mountains are calling and I must go." Next up was Mount Stoke Kangri, a peak towering more than 20,000 feet high in the remote and harsh terrain of Leh. This, incidentally, wasn't my first time on this mountain. I had travelled to the roadhead of Mount Stoke Kangri in 2012 when my father had climbed her the first time. Since then, it had been on my wish list, and after 5 years, I was ready. After an extensive acclimatization program at Lake, Khardungla, and beyond, we started our climb. The grueling summit climb singularly lasted a continuous 19 hours and drained our energies to the barest minimum. But I proved my potential yet again by reaching the top of the 20,187 feet high Mount Stoke Kangri in the morning hours of 7th August 2017, just 3 days short of my 10th birthday. Thus, I became the youngest girl in the world to have climbed above 6,000 meters. I would like to play a few snippets from the memorable climb.
People, let me tell you, we are witnessing something incredible happening here. A 9-year-old girl summiting Kangri, the biggest challenge of her. Yeah, can't beat this moment. "12 hours of grueling trek, and both People, let me tell you, we are witnessing something incredible happening here. A 9-year-old girl summiting Stoke Kangri, the biggest challenge of her life till date.
Yeah, I'm here.
There she is,
Yeah, sure.
almost
When
there.
I got down from Stoke, I asked which one next. Astonished, he asked, yeah, sure. Yeah, can I continue? Sure. When I got down from Stoke, I asked my dad, which one next? Astonished, he asked me, do you realize that you have just climbed higher than the highest peaks in 5 of the continents? And there was born Mission Sahas, a journey that would literally take me to the extremities of the world. The Explorer's Grand Slam is an ultimate challenge in mountaineering to climb the highest peaks in each of the 7 continents and ski to the North and South poles. It's no mean feat by any measure. Only 63 mountaineers have achieved it till now, of which only 14 are females. Not just that, I also hope to become the youngest ever to accomplish this feat. The current record is held by Marine Minamiya of Japan at 20 years of age. If things proceed as planned, I hope to accomplish it by 14. By accomplishing such feats, I hope to inspire our countrymen to adopt an adventurous lifestyle and especially promote girls to indulge in outdoor activities. Because if I can, all of you can. The first destination of Mission Sahas took me to Tanzania, in the untamed continent of Africa, to climb its highest mountain, Mount Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is a dormant volcano and also the world's highest freestanding mountain. I took the Marangu route, which involved a mammoth 4,000-meter height gain in mere 4 days of climb. For the benefit of all, this is like climbing a 333-storied building each day for 4 days continuously. The trek took our duo of mom and daughter through varied landscapes, from plantations to equatorial evergreen forests to moorland, heath, alpine cold desert, and finally the snow-capped crater on the summit. It was like a fast-track geography class, literally. We finally reached Gilman's Point on the crater rim at 7:45 on the 25th of October 2017 and achieved the first milestone of Sahas. The second destination of Mission Sahas took me to the Caucasian mountains of icy Russia to climb its highest mountain, Mount Elbrus. Incidentally, Elbrus is also a dormant volcano and is of similar height as Kilimanjaro. But due to its location up north, it is much colder and icier. I was blessed to be flagged off by Captain M.S. Kohli, the legendary naval mountaineer who led the first successful Indian Everest expedition in 1965. One of his books on the Everest expedition has been turned into a comic strip and makes a very interesting read. I recommend this book titled Indians on Everest to everyone. This climb was more fun because it wasn't just mom and me. We had my dad and two of his climbing friends also joining us. The first day was spent arranging the logistics and equipment, and we just couldn't get mountaineering boots of my size. The shopkeepers unwittingly commented as to who in their right senses would take such a small girl on Elbrus. Finally, we settled for a pair of snowboarding boots. Yes, you heard it right. I climbed Mount Elbrus wearing snowboarding boots. The climb started from a small village called Azao, which can be seen in the first photograph way below. And unlike Kilimanjaro, here we were walking on snow right from the first day itself. One of the pit stops, Mir Station, had a very unique dining hall. It had currencies from across the globe stuck all over with the visitors' names written on it. Since the climb above Mir had lots of technical stretches to negotiate, we brushed up some climbing skills on our rest day. Our final ascent started in the middle of the night as usual. As we walked into daybreak, everyone was praying for the sun to pop out soon. Temperatures were in the range of minus 15 to minus 20 degrees. The climb only got steeper and steeper, and with every inch endured, we were finally there, on top of Europe, my second of the 7 summits accomplished. At about the same time, our sports minister, Colonel Rajyavardhan Singh Rathod, had initiated the Hum Fit So India Fit challenge, and here's how I responded.
Respected Sports Minister, I accept your challenge. My challenge is to walk the last 10 steps of Mount Elbrus, the highest mountain in Europe.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
It might seem easy to take those 10 steps, but at that altitude, with lack of oxygen and fatigue from a long climb, I think very few can endure it. I wouldn't stop at that. I also skied down from the summit of Elbrus, and here's how I did it.
This is top of the Europe seas doing skiing.
Not before long, the third destination of Mission Sahas took me down under to the snowy mountain ranges of Australia to climb its highest mountain, Mount Kosciuszko. And as usual, it was back to me and my mom again. We traveled to Sydney and Canberra, and the final climb started from a small town called Thredbo. Mount Kosciuszko is only 7,310 feet high and was only a 1 day hike up and down, but it was long and tough. It was also fascinating to see snow at such a low altitude. Though the initial stretches were easy, strong winds towards the end made it difficult to gain any headway. The gusts would literally push me back sometimes. And then, suddenly, we were there. Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah, I'll just start again. The next milestone was to climb Mount Aconcagua, but the mighty Aconcagua stands 6962 meters high. To ease your imagination, this height is equivalent to 100 Qutub Minars or 268 Gateway of India stacked vertically over each other. This mountain belonged to an elite league, and I knew that I had to train adequately before attempting her. So I traveled to my favorite playground, Leh, to scale my second above 6,000-meter peak, Mount Mentor Kangri. The summit allowed me an audience on 24th August 2019. Just 2 days after the summit, I cycled to Khartungla, the highest motorable road in the world. We now believe that I was ready to summit Aconcagua. Though climbing Aconcagua actually requires very little technical skills, what makes this mountain challenging is its extreme high altitude. Also, moving farther away from the equator thins the Earth's atmosphere and has a great impact on the oxygen deficiency. Proximity to the Pacific shores also makes it susceptible to extreme weather conditions, all of which could deter even seasoned climbers. Aconcagua can be bleak and unforgiving with merciless winds and biting temperatures. With a success rate of only 30 to 35%, many who attempt this peak are forced to turn back and descend. So basically, I had to battle and endure all these hardships to stand on top of the highest peak of the western and southern hemispheres. But these challenges were anticipated, and I had prepared for them through years of rigorous training. But life consistently throws unexpected challenges at us to test our determination to succeed. I reached Mendoza in Argentina with my dad on 3rd January this year with a plan to start the climb on 7th January. We were to obtain a special permit for the climb from the Aconcagua National Park authorities as I was only 12 years old. My father had arranged for this through a lawyer in Argentina much before we left India. But when we reached there, we were surprised to learn that due to an emergency that arose with a minor climber last year, the park authorities now wanted us to acquire the permission of a family court prior issuing the permit. In the absence of precedents, the court initially refused to even consider our case. So we had to approach a higher court which directed the family court to take up the case. Now, despite my past performances in the mountains and medical certificates from India, the family court wanted me to undergo various medical and psychological evaluations in Argentina prior giving me permission to climb. We could see no light at the end of this tunnel. But our lawyer, Mr. Arturo Erisi, proved to be our savior angel. Apart from fighting the case, all guns blazing, he was our translator, driver, well-wisher, motivator, and even a mountain guide. He did everything in his power to garner support, requested politicians and city authorities, consulted sports experts, publicized our plight through the media, and whatnot. Being a mountaineer himself, he even took us on a weekend acclimatization trek to a nearby mountain to ease our stress and prove my capability to the judge. Though our initial plan was severely delayed, we stayed determined, took up the challenges positively, and cleared all the requirements. A big thanks to Mr. Erisi. They say that if we truly wish for something, the entire universe would conspire to make it happen. The judge at the family court changed on the 10th day, with a mountaineer taking her place. We eventually got the permit the very same day. Though undertaking the expedition after this delay meant making amends to travel plans, extending visas, and many other administrative hassles, we remained focused on the primary aim to climb Aconcagua, and everything automatically fell right in place around that aim. On 16 January, we directly joined our team of strangers at the roadhead Penitentes. The 3-day trek to the base camp started from the gates of the Aconcagua National Park. We were surprised to see the vegetation starting to vanish as low as 3,000 meters. In the Indian Himalayas, one would find shrubs and bushes even at 4,500 meters. We stayed at an intermediate camp, Confluencia, from where we did an acclimatization trek to Plaza Francia, the base camp to climb the south face of Aconcagua. The views of the mountain from here are the best in the entire expedition. The next day was an agonizing 10-hour-long walk to our base camp, Plaza de Mulas, at 4,500 meters. With no vegetation around and much of the route passing through a long valley between two mountain ranges, the scene never seemed to change. Thankfully, our practice in the cold deserts of Ladakh came handy. After a day's rest at the base camp, we climbed to Camp 1 and returned. This was primarily to help us acclimatize better and ferry our climbing equipment, food, and water. Yes, water, as there was neither water nor snow at Camp 1. Such was the dryness of Aconcagua. After yet another day at base camp, we moved and settled in Camp 1, which was at 5,000 meters. By then, 3 of our 12 teammates had already withdrawn. The next day, we climbed and settled at the 5,600 meter high Camp 2. It proved to be a tough climb as we had to carry our entire luggage in one go. Also, the gradient had increased as had the altitude. We had an acclimatization day at Camp 2, wherein I was thoroughly checked by the doctors of the National Park Medical Services. The doctors and guides probably did not expect me to reach this far and hence seemed a little worried and reluctant. But as all my vitals were good, I had to be allowed to climb further the next day. During the ensuing climbs, the guides acted cynical from the beginning and sounded discouraging. And so, our second biggest challenge came on the 10th day of the expedition when I was climbing to the summit camp. It was a windy day and I found my fingers freezing. As I stopped a couple of times to warm them up, the guides panicked and suspected symptoms of acute mountain sickness in me and wanted us to turn around to the base camp. Despite repeated requests that I was normal, we finally had to climb down to Camp 2, where the doctor re-examined me only to declare that I was fit to climb. Just as we were coming to terms with the situation and a ray of hope to climb the next day was emerging, we were informed that our tents had been sent back to the base camp and we were left with no option but to climb down further to the base camp. The situation suddenly seemed out of our hand. It seemed like we had hit a wall and we were physically and emotionally drained to fight any further. But on our way down, I picked up courage and assured my dad that if I was given another chance, I would prove them wrong by climbing all the way to the top. I was fit, confident, and as strong as the other elder members in our team and did not want to accept failure due to someone else's misjudgment. This gave my father the confidence to reason out with the service provider and the park authorities and get me another chance to prove my grit. So, when I was given that second chance, I was even more focused and determined to take the challenge. We set out on our second attempt on Aconcagua. This time around, the entire universe again seemed to be conspiring to help me reach my goal. We met our second savior angel in the form of our new guide, Peluka. With no preconceived notions, he believed that I could summit the peak and wanted to genuinely guide me if I was willing to endure. And I did endure the climb, all the way from the base camp for a second time. Not just the guide, even the elements tested our endurance. The weather turned tough, covering the generally barren slopes with a foot of fresh snow. But this time, we weren't going to relent, and the climb took me all the way up to the summit.
¡Bravo! ¡Qué jugada, hermano! ¿Cómo me la estoy jugando? No puedo.
Vamos a la cruz, vamos a la cruz.
Gracias, hermano.
Bye. ¿Qué hice?
Pero así no sale. Ahí, ven. Hey, no, no.
Thank you so much.
Come on, Negro. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
At the end of the journey, apart from becoming the youngest girl in the world to scale Aconcagua and bringing laurels to our nations, what I learned is a lesson for life. Do not let challenges break you. Instead, channelize them to make you. For all the struggles you go through will only make you stronger, wiser, and humble. Okay, to sum it up, here is a brisk rundown of my short climbing experience. While on the personal front, the climbs have taken me a step closer to my dream of climbing the seven summits, I sincerely hope that these accomplishments will motivate more students, institutions, and our countrymen at large to adopt an outdoor and healthy way of life. And with these climbs, I now hold the records for the youngest girl in the world to have climbed Mount Aconcagua, the youngest person in the world to have climbed an above 6,000 meter or 20,000 feet peak, and the youngest to have skied down the summit of Mount Elbrus. Earlier in 2017, I had become the second youngest girl in the world to trek to the Everest base camp and the second youngest girl in Asia to climb to Gilman's Point on Mount Kilimanjaro. The road ahead is not easy. An ambitious roadmap has been charted up to the year 2022. In 2020, I want to undergo a basic mountaineering course to acquire necessary technical training. I also plan to undergo specialized cross-country ski training in Gulmarg. In 2021, I plan to attempt Mount Denali, the highest in North America, and ski traverse to the North Pole. I also plan to climb Mount Nun in the Indian Himalayas as a practice climb for Mount Everest and travel to the white continent of Antarctica to climb Mount Vinson Massif and ski traverse to the South Pole. Finally, Everest will be the ultimate challenge for me in completing the Explorer's Grand Slam. If I accomplish this in May 2020, I would surely be the youngest in the world to do so, at an age of 14 years and 10 months. As of now, the record is held by Marin Minamiya of Japan at 20 years of age. It's a popular belief in our country that sportsmen can't study. Much against it, the fact is that sports and adventure brings in discipline, confidence, and focus in life and helps one excel in every sphere. Owing to all-round performance, I was made the captain of my house at school. I have been performing well in academic competitions like Spelby and Olympiad. Along with my physical development, I have been able to juggle easily between learning to play the piano, guitar, Bharatanatyam, and Western and Carnatic music. I owe all this all round development to the attributes inculcated through involvement in adventure and sports. Hence, I would request each and everyone in the audience to embrace and support adventure sports and lead a healthy and interesting life. In the end, I would request you all to keep me and Sahas in your prayers and motivate me to endeavor more and achieve further. You can also follow my adventures on my Facebook and Instagram pages. My dad says that we should all go on adventures to accumulate stories. Stories that we can tell our grandchildren when we retire at an old age. Now, I've had a little head start and don't want to wait till 60. So, thank you everyone once again for bringing me this opportunity and being a patient audience to my story. Hope it spreads the spirit of adventure and healthy living.
Thank you, Kamya. It was really great to hear your side of the story. And I'm sure that everyone of us in the audience and everyone who attended this lecture would have got some incentive to start from you. And now I have some questions for you. So, you have been climbing mountains, and it's really a huge feat to reach such heights, and it requires a lot of time, dedication, and discipline. And as you told just now, you are good at academics and piano and Bharatanatyam alongside your mountaineering activities. So you are such an all-rounder. How do you manage your time and your school and everything in your timetable?
As I said, much against the popular belief that sportsmen can't study, we should realize that adventure brings in discipline, confidence, and focus in life and helps us excel in every sphere. Even while training for expeditions, I get to practice Bharatanatyam, singing, piano, and guitar apart from my regular academics. My parents help me in scheduling my activities, and I just follow it sincerely. And I even get to squeeze in some TP and playtime.
Wow, it's really great that you have your parents to help you with the time and all that. So, apart from mountaineering activities, do you have any other interests? Do you want to undertake any other activities also?
So I enjoy swimming and I am also a certified scuba diver. I also love cycling and I'm planning to travel across the length of our country from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Skiing is another sport which is close to my heart, and maybe when I'm old enough, I would like to skydive like my father.
That's great. That's really great. You have such a varied interest in adventure sports and all. And most difficult experience while climbing the mountain?
I could say that the mental challenges that I faced in Aconcagua, both before and during the climb, have been my toughest experiences till now. Physically, I have a habit of vomiting when I start out on my summit climbs in the middle of the night. It could probably be because of sleep deprivation, but a lot of people mistake it for high altitude sickness. And during my summit climb on Kilimanjaro, this got aggravated with an upset stomach. The guides panicked and kept measuring my oxygen saturation, and it was just a horrible experience to repeatedly remove all my gloves on a freezing cold night.
Wow, that's really great. That's amazing as well. So you have been to a lot of peaks. How does it feel to stand on the summit of a mountain and look over the world?
It depends upon the climb. On most of the lower Himalayan treks, it's a beautiful view from the top. So you can sink in the environment and just feel that instant happiness. But on a high altitude peak, with most of the energy drained out and consistently on the lookout for weather and temperature, the thought of getting back safe is always playing on your mind. The actual feeling of happiness sinks in once you reach your camp back safely.
Okay, I get it. So, and you have started out quite early on your mountaineering activities, and generally, people wish that they had started a particular activities when they were young. So, what are your views on starting a particular activity now versus young?
um, I feel that it just does not matter when we start. All that is important is to start the activity. I'm just lucky that I have started early. It is not the summit that matters, all that matters is the journey. So, my request to everyone is to start something they're passionate about, whatever age or state they're in.
Cool, that's nice. So, what is the biggest gain that you personally felt in all your adventures?
um, like I said in the end, my dad says we should all go on adventures to accumulate stories. And I just think that accumulating stories and memories is one of the most important things that I've learned from mountaineering. Because when I went to Mount Stoke Kangri, both in 2012 and 2017, we had to get a permit from the Indian Mountaineering Foundation representative there, Mr. Sonam Wangyal, and he's a veteran climber. And every time we went to him, he just had so many stories of his old climbs to tell us. And the same was the case with Captain MS Kohli, whom I met before my Elbrus expedition. He was the leader of the first successful team, and he had so many stories to tell us about all the rest of his climbs, and he's written about most of his memories. So that was very inspiring for me, and I feel stories are my biggest takeaways from all the expeditions.
Yeah, I'm sure that the stories must be really dear to you, and your stories are really motivating to all of us here. So, in this current lockdown situation, how are you maintaining your fitness?
So we actually stay in a 15-story building. So I climb up and down the stairs. It exercises my heart and strengthens the climbing muscles. On alternate days, we do internals of various floor exercises for cardio, leg, and core strengthening.
Cool. It's really great to know that even in this adverse times, you are keeping yourself fit and motivated for your future conquest. And for the last question, for someone who is just starting out in mountaineering or sports in general, what advice would you give them?
For trekking, those of you who are wondering how to start exploring, you are all welcome to join me on my practice treks in the Sahyadris. It will be a wonderful experience, and who knows, some of you might get hooked onto it and even explore the higher mountains of the Himalayas. But the first step towards this is to prepare ourselves physically and mentally. So I would request you all to keep exercising even through the lockdown and take up exercising as a routine part of your lives when the situation improves.
Thank you, Kamya. That was really nice and really great to hear your side of the story. I'm sure that everyone would take something from your story and start something for themselves. And now it's time for the big something big that has been waiting for you all the time. So here's the most awaited moment. And Kamya, would you like to do the honors?
Sure. I'm honored to be invited to launch Everyone's Game, the new campaign of IIT Madras Sports Organizing Committee. Aptly named, the campaign is set to organize various sports events, not just for the IITians, but for a wide array of people from various colleges and schools, with an aim to encourage sports as recreational, non-competitive, and inclusive of all. The idea that sports is not mere competition, but can be a way of life. I feel connected to this campaign as Mission Sahas is also an endeavor to showcase that to be able to accomplish physical milestones, you do not have to be visibly strong, you do not need to have an athletic body, nor do you need to limit yourself due to your gender. All that's needed is to take that first step and enjoy the journey. I sincerely hope that the campaign achieves its objectives of building a space where sports is played and rejoiced by all. I also hope that I will get to be part of it as often as possible. I wish all the best to the IIT Madras Sports Organizing Committee for everyone's game. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Kamya. And now it's time for the launch of our campaign video. Thank you for coming here with us to launch our campaign. And it's been a really great pleasure to have you here and to launch our social campaign, Everyone's Game. And for everyone out there, please stay tuned for more events on our campaign. It's going to be really great. Thank you everyone for attending this session. Thank you.
And thank you so much to IIT Madras for hosting me today.
Sure, Kaamya.